All right. Beautiful Pier, Michigan. It smells very Pier around here. Where are we?
Stevensville, the bustling metropolis.
Yeah. I love the countryside. I love the backside
Yeah,
of things.
You love the backside.
Is that,
I like it too.
is that a joke?
it's an innuendo. Yeah, we're in the village of Stevensville. So we're in a 900-person town, village, surrounded by a 15,000-person township right on the lake.
It's a beautiful town.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care if it's the wintertime. It still looks beautiful.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
We're right on the lake, 90 minutes from downtown Chicago. It's nice to be that close, you know. Living in Chicago, it's like, oh, you live in Chicago, what part? And people are like, Downers Grove or Elk Grove Village, or yeah, you live in the suburbs.
Don't say that.
Yeah, so
if you're not from Chicago proper, don't say that.
if you don't pay Cook County taxes, you're not in Chicago. That's typically my general rule of thumb.
All right, Chris, we're gonna start with you. Please introduce yourself.
Cool. So my name's Chris Mason. I'm one of the 3 owners here at Watermark. We've got some minority investors, but David, myself, and our third business partner, Justin, we are the 3 proprietors that started Watermark Brewing Company. When we all first met in 2014, it was our brainchild, and then finally opened for business in 2016.
3 years.
Yeah, so 2.5 years. I actually grew up in Stevensville.
Yeah. We were talking about this.
Yeah.
Before the cameras were rolling, we were talking about this. Like, you're from here? That's great.
Yeah, so very, very small podunk town from what you would assume. Grew up, left when I was 18. I was like, I'm never fucking going back to Stevensville. Like, this place has nothing to offer anyone. And then going to college.
How old were you when you say that?
I mean, I was 18, and it's like, granted, you're desensitized to the convenience of living 5 minutes from the lake.
Can you say you took for granted Stevensville?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I love it now. Because, so went to college for 4 years, left the Indianapolis area, and went to go live in Chicago like most people in the Midwest try and do. It's like, I'm going to go live in Chicago. And then you quickly realize how expensive Chicago is. So
tell me about it.
yeah, absolutely. So you're either in that post-grad, post-college income of like $30,000 that doesn't even like pay you anything, working 2 jobs, which is what ended up happening for me. I wanted to get into craft beer, but I didn't know in what avenue. The marketing behind craft beer always interests me. Living in Indianapolis, I was like, 3 Floyds, what's so amazing about this beer? And granted, it was really good beer, great Gumball Head and Oberon were my 2 gateway beers when I was 21.
I would like to hear that though.
Gateway beer. Absolutely. You got to pay your dues, do the PBR when you're 21.
Yeah.
We get 21-year-olds that come in here. Yeah, they come in here on Christmas break. They're home visiting their family. I'm like, you're 21. You need to go down the street and pay your dues at the Welcome Inn and drink some PBR. But no, I thought I knew craft beer going in Chicago. I worked at West Lakeview Liquors. The owner, Christina, she taught me a lot about what the industry truly is. Chicago is the most competitive market in the entire world, in my opinion.
Fun fact today, December 11th.
Yep.
Chicago is the city with most
Saw that.
craft breweries
New York Times.
in the country.
Oh, wow.
167. I may be wrong. 167, I believe. And bixi is still the latest, the newest.
The newest one?
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're cool, man.
I'm just taking away of your.
Yeah. No, it's, I mean, from a distribution standpoint, you get everything from the south, the east, and the west all going into Chicago. And then you've got to convince a consumer, hey, buy at this liquor store or Benny's. Don't go to this tap room that's beautiful and convenient.
Yeah.
Similar place to like your place, which is a great experience that we had. So getting off topic, worked at West Lakeview.
I'm gonna take that compliment.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take it right here.
So working at West Lakeview, working at the Chicago Tribune.
You worked at the Chicago Tribune?
I worked at the Chicago Tribune. One of the worst jobs I've ever had. So I wasn't slinging newspapers, but I was actually working with small businesses and trying to sell them some bullshit.
Yeah.
Online advertising, things like that.
Okay.
So I have to deal with a lot of those
I think that's how
salespeople.
how the industry evolves.
Yeah.
Right? No one buys.
No one reads a newspaper.
When we opened, we had an article written about us in print, and one of our customers said they're sitting by the bar, and they're like, "Oh, I just bought a Tribune, and you guys are in it." I was like, "Really? Where can I buy a couple of those?" So
right.
Apparently, 7-Eleven sells newspapers.
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't know. I had to ask around, and then I bought it. They only had 2 of them.
Oh yeah, I tell people I worked at the Tribune, like, oh, you were a writer? Absolutely not. I'm a salesman. I've worn a flannel when I sell at the Tribune. I wear a t-shirt and jeans and flannels now, and it's like, the plus side is definitely working for yourself and working with 2 of my best friends here at Watermark. But so work nights at the liquor store, got to learn all about the beautiful beer over at Off Color. Had Apex Predator and was like, damn, this beer is so good. And anytime I went out to the bars and Daisy,
you have a strong following.
Oh man, Off Color is.
I have a friend of mine, buddy of mine from Virginia.
Yeah.
Every time he comes in, he raves about it. He wants to bring it back, dude.
Mousetrap's a great time.
Yep.
It's Apex Predator. I'd call that the gateway saison, for lack of better terms. Is like, here, try this beer. Man, that's really good. Dry hop saison. Really tasty beer. I've always been a huge fan of Half Acre. Everything that they do on, in their suds, but also their marketing, I think, is unrivaled.
Yeah.
So always been a big fan of Daisy Cutter. Those have been 2 staples I've always drank, and Pony Pills, and Chicago's just got a plethora of beers available. So long story short, I had an opportunity to move back to Michigan simultaneously. Our third business partner, Justin, who's not with us here, he's not dead, by the way. He's just not at the table. Rest in peace. Dead now. No.
Justin.
Yeah, I think he's at the bar actually. So I hear him back there somewhere. He was living in Chicago at the same time as well. He worked for, I believe, a Marriott out near O'Hare.
Okay.
So he studied hospitality at Michigan State. I studied marketing communications at Anderson. We both met each other on a Friday in August. We both liked beer. I'd been homebrewing. He had just started homebrewing. We homebrewed on a Sunday. He had a neighbor over that was just blackout hammered on Jägermeister. It's a true story.
Never been there.
He's like, hey man, have you ever been sailing? Because we're right on the lake. He's like, have you ever been sailing at the yacht club? And I'm like, dude, I don't know if I want to be on a sailboat with you. So this guy invites me sailing, and I'm like, yeah, there's nothing to do in town, so I might as well get on the boat. So this is Sunday night. We brew a beer with Justin and I. Wednesday night, I get on the boat. Dave is on that boat.
So that's when you met Dave. We got to Dave's story in a little bit.
So Dave was wearing a Bell's t-shirt, and I go,
this dude likes beer.
So Dave, what's up, man? I'm Chris. Hey, I'm Dave. What's your story? So I just graduated. Dave says, I just graduated from Purdue. I studied protein biochemistry at the University of Purdue.
Gonna high five over protein chemistry real quick.
And for me, I at the time maybe had 20 homebrews under my belt, and one of them was probably consumable. Not a good brewer. Period. I'm just like, I just wanted a hobby to do, something to talk about. I was like, hey dude, you should come brew some beer with Justin and I. So then flash forward 3 more days, the 3 of us, we start building out our Franken system out at Justin's family farm. Dave,
into the details of that Franken system. I don't know.
Oh, it's something. It's evolved. There's been many versions. So then Dave gets into the fold. Dave had been working at a chem lab nearby in St. Joe. And so this is August of 2014. And I don't know if you want to kind of just tell a little bit about your background, then we can kind of get back to 2014.
Why don't we do that? Yeah.
We'll segue. That's a perfect segue, honestly.
So Dave's pretty cool.
Yeah, David Cockell here. I'm a native of Grosse Pointe, Michigan, which is about a stone's throw from Detroit.
Okay.
And so, growing up in that area and drinking in that area, it's a little bit different. anyways, I went to school at Purdue University. I studied biochemistry there and became immediately fascinated with fermentation. My job in my undergraduate lab was to just keep microbes happy so they could produce our protein of interest and then we could do experiments on them. So that really lent itself well later on in my lifetime when, as a brewer, your job is to just keep the microbes happy.
Absolutely. He was looking at me too, like, yeah, you know what it's like.
However knows what. Anyway, so I studied at Purdue and then took a summer off where I transported sailboats around the Great Lakes. I had grown up sailing on Detroit River and...
What does that have to do with protein biochemistry?
Well, nothing at all, and that's why I took the whole summer to do that. I was a bit burnt out, but I needed an adventure. And, that really fulfilled that kind of need to get away and be a separate...
How long did you do that for?
Just 3 months.
3 months.
And then I landed a job here in Stevensville, St. Joseph area, where I developed food and animal safety test kits. So anything that says may contain tree nuts, chances are that might have been one of our new kits that came out that I may or may not have worked on. Anyways,
may or may not.
This job was terrifyingly boring. It was run 1,000 ELISA tests a day and then build an enormous spreadsheet and compare data points. That was it every single day. I think I did that job for about 2 years or so.
2 years. How did you feel?
I was the fastest multi-pipetter in the Midwest.
I really want to high five that. Oh my God.
You might have to pipe that off. Yeah, between the two of you.
I had a 12 channel.
Okay.
And the thing about pipetting, for those of you who don't know, it's this machine where you
thank you for
grasp
explaining. Yes.
A handle and there's a button where you press with your thumb and it dispenses very, very tiny amounts of liquid.
Talking about 0.1 microliters.
Anyway, into these tiny wells where there would be a reaction. Well, this is primarily not a reaction, but it's an enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay is what that stands for. Anyways, it's very similar to your pregnancy test where you squirt the stuff in and it will turn a color and that will indicate whether or not your antigen of interest is present. So yes or no to tree nut or what have you. So anyways, you only use one arm, and I had a bulging bicep on the one arm, and the other arm was just shriveled and awful. And anyways, it was time for me to move on from that job. And at that very same time, I was so fortunate to meet Chris on that sailboat.
I don't know, just a segue of just making sure that people understand how amazing this is. If you're fast, once microbiology becomes a job, to be the fastest micropipetter, that means a lot. That means like my skills at they're very poor. Grab it with your pinky finger, take the cap off, put it in, take it off. Like, those are the things that you have to be good at it. When you're preparing media, for example, and you're trying to isolate strains of yeast, those skills, it comes with time, and that's very, 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 very important. Please continue.
Thank you for that compliment. I will take that one as well.
Yes.
Anyways, I run into Christopher on the sailboat, and it was literally, and I'm not sure I believe in fate or not, but there was some kind of craziness. I had actually never homebrewed at that point in my life, but I had read plenty.
But you had interest in it.
I had absolutely interest in beer, and so I've actually left a part out. So I'm going to do a bit of a TV director move and jump back into the middle of the story. When I moved to St. Joseph, which is very close to Stevensville, it's a bike ride away. I moved here being a native Michigander, so landscape was familiar, but that was it. I mean, didn't have.
Wait, did you say Michigander?
Michigander, yeah.
Is that what it is? I never heard that before.
Yeah,
Michigander. I love that.
It's a colloquial term, I suppose. But,
yeah.
Anyways, so I used my kind of interest and knowledge of craft beer to try and build a network. I mean, that's really what was, my savior in terms of mental health and socializing. So you could show up at, these microbreweries with no prior knowledge, maybe an interest in beer, and no one to really talk to and strike up a conversation with a stranger. And it was a perfectly natural and neat way to network. So I think that's what, in my mind, craft beer has this representation of community gathering, of people socializing, having a good time, and building a network of friends. So that, I think, is...
And that's what we kind of go for here, too. I mean, we'll get to that.
I mean, that it works into our story later. But anyway, so... Yeah. Going back to the future, we have Christopher, Justin, and I gather around the Shaw farm. And at this time, Justin was farming hops, and I think he had 6 varieties planted.
Really?
Very small plot. I think he had an acre and a half.
You still doing that?
No, they were ramping up, and they were just piloting some hops. It would have been the first year in the ground, and so Justin had moved back to work and open a hop farm. I had moved back to work in the family business. Dave ended up here working in that chem lab. We all met within a week, started brewing within a week, and it was kind of a nonstop thing for about. I mean, it was just nonstop. I mean, it was 8 batches a week. It was double batching homebrew, 5 gallons at a time. Boom, boom, boom.
Batches a week minimum. This was like after I got off work, I'd head to the farm
at 4 o'clock. So we would both get off work around 4 o'clock. Dave and I, our apartments were down the street. We'd get in the car and go meet up with Justin. And I mean, we went from extract to whole grain, maybe, and I would say within a month. We're like, this is stupid. Yeah.
We did 2 extract brews,
and
after that, instance, and I'm sure you've heard this story similarly, where we had poured in the liquid malt extract and immediately burnt it to the bottom of the kettle. And so,
we were talking about that earlier, yeah.
But that was funny. Anyways, Justin is this amazing, mechanically minded dude. So.
Great engineer forward.
Yeah, absolutely. He had endeavored to build this system. He had done some online reading. And so he basically went in and paid keg deposit on a couple of Anheuser-Busch cans.
Oh, is that right?
And so, he had cut them open and then fitted with bulkheads and stainless ball valves and whatnot. And then the frame of the system, he actually constructed of old bed frames. He got
to do this Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this thing was a fucking work of art. We had no money for pumps, so it was gravity fed, tiered system. So the hot liquor tank was 9 feet in the air. And then subsequently, they dropped 3.5 feet as you went down from the mash tun and then the boil kettle. And then our cooling was a just plastic bucket with a bent copper tube. So that would kind of be our cooling coil, which you'd fill this bucket with ice water.
Okay, we're not into the brewery nightmare just yet. This is just
this is
background.
This is the book of Genesis. This is the book of Genesis.
This is our 5 gallon system.
Yeah. So this is like, hey, we don't have any money. This is our hobby. The 3 of us had just met. You like craft beer? Cool. Let's while we're sitting around, let's drink stuff we get at the liquor store, blah blah blah. So this is all started in August 2014, in through winter. Dave and Justin are hitting on all cylinders, doing all these batches, and I quickly realized, I think I have ADHD, whatever. There's not. I mean, when you're home brewing, it's 5 gallons. There's only so much workload for 3 people, and so we quickly were like, all right, why the hell are all these breweries opening up in Berrien County? Really good friends with Arclight Brewing Company. Justin had worked there for a short period during this time, and we really liked their model of no restaurant, limited distribution. We saw that as all right, that's one.
Actually, we do pour Arclight now at bixi.
Their sour beers are fantastic. So we were all kind of on the same page. We all wanted to own a brewery, but didn't know how. And we all came, each one of our fathers who come from family businesses. And so quickly realizing like, all right, I had no value to the brewing process. Let's start building the business plan. So as homebrewers and beer clubs, when we go to other breweries, we would ask in the area, we'd ask simple questions like, so many kegs are you guys selling in your tap room a month? And
is that the first question?
Yeah, we'd lead into it. We'd have a few beers first. And you're like, so much do you distro? Like, how many barrels are you moving in the summertime? And like, just trying to get, ballpark projections for a business plan. Identifying, like Dave was kind of saying before, like a lot of breweries in the area were focusing on more distribution, not really focusing on the area, creating a cool space that people want to come hang out at. And so that's kind of our business model is stay small, have fun, create a cool space, make good beer. And so that's kind of our recipe for our business. Dave, Justin, and I each own, a quarter of the business, and then we sold equity of the business to investors to fund the project.
How long did that take?
So we started brewing in August of 14, built the business plan, and did like a PowerPoint Shark Tank presentation to friends and family of May of 2015.
Okay.
So that's what? Less than 6 months, or it's like 8 months maybe.
Yeah.
We had one friend. I had one friend, AJ. He wrote me because we were selling the company. We evaluated it at $600,000 potentially, $1,000 a share, 600 shares. Wrote me a check. Goes, here's $1,000. I'm in. Let me know. And it was kind of cool. He was a buddy of mine in Chicago.
Is he the first one?
He was the first guy.
Is he still in it?
We bought him out just because we're like, hey man, you had the smallest amount of equity.
Are you guys still friends?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
He's a
So,
great guy.
so
Shout out for
AJ, man.
AJ.
Yeah. Cheers to that, man. But so down the road, after kind of furthering the research, figuring out what location we wanted, what town we wanted to be in, sat down with our lion's share investor at the time, and we sold him 15% of the company. So we negotiated. He bought 15% of the company for X dollars, and he came in and it was great. He had a finance background from a larger corporation, and he kind of kept us on our toes. Is like, all right, we're doing this because we were trying to find a location. We thought we were going to be at another place. There was a tax lien on it. And then we met with somebody, caught word in the village of Stevensville and said, hey, we'd love for you guys to build a brewery on downtown Main Street. So we walked the property that we're sitting at now in June or July of 2015. So this is less than a year than we all met.
Yeah.
Walking a property.
And you guys knew that you were walking into a marriage.
Oh, a 30-year marriage, mortgage. 30-year, yeah, exactly. So, oh yeah. So,
where used to be on this building? Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. So it's zoned commercial. There used to be 4 houses. So we're on 4 different parcels, and they used to be houses. And the story gets even deeper. So years ago, the town city manager embezzled money and bought these 4 houses.
No way.
And so his embezzlement was our gain, essentially. The town sold us this property. We got some instant equity on the property, got investors on board, got the bank on board, and then the 3 of us signed a loan in November of 2016 to do the project.
Yeah.
So we went with formerly known as Systech Stainless Solutions, no longer in business.
Yeah, this is
that's story.
We get to talk about it in a little bit.
So, do we have a time limit? I mean, we're kind of running here.
We'll
trim it up. Okay, because that's like the biggest mistake.
Parts, but we left like the good parts.
Yeah.
So
this has been fascinating.
So
to me. This is amazing.
So there's Systech Stainless. There was our contractor, which we won't name. We signed a non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah.
We signed the loan for the property, working capital, the brewing equipment, and the building on November 6th of 2015. 2015. We began to break ground, the build-out phase. We hand this equipment supplier that's just getting started $48,000 down payment. Here, go build our equipment. This place, Systech Stainless, got flooded with emails, not just by us, but they bit off more than they can chew. And, you know, going back to it, we got through it, and that's just the beginning of that story. You know, going through a more credited supplier or equipment supplier or manufacturer would have been a lot better of a choice, because it almost crippled our business. It did cripple our business, but it almost made us go out of business. We got through the issues with our contractor.
Without you guys being in business to begin with.
Right? Yeah. So we almost ran out of capital. We had to end up pouring our own concrete, doing a lot of the labor-intensive stuff ourselves.
It looks great. Your drain
Hey,
looks great.
thank you.
Yeah,
That's a big floor drain.
The first thing that I looked
Yeah.
at the breweries is how does the drain look like?
Yeah.
Perfect.
65-foot floor drain.
I gotta say though,
Yeah.
in order to graduate from brewing school, I'm just gonna,
No, you're cool.
I'm
You're
gonna
cool.
value your drain.
Hey, for sure.
I'm gonna value your drain. In order to graduate from brewing school in Germany, we had to visit 18 facilities, including breweries and brewing manufacturing equipment. In 10 days, 18 facilities in 5 countries. I gotta say that drain and brewery floor is the number one complaint from brewers. We brewers were whiners. We like to whine a lot.
Absolutely.
I gotta say, massive, beautiful. You don't need a squeegee. You
Hey.
know, it all goes down. Am I
Fermenter
right?
can blow off. It's all pitched down to the floor.
So,
Yeah. It's
that's awesome.
that was kind of, so it was 3 guys. We had to design a building. We walked the property in July of 16. We had to design a building in 3 months. None of us really working in a big commercial brewery, really knowing the nuances of like, oh, you need to connect your back bar drain to the actual drain out. I know, right? Didn't know you until about a month ago. So we kind of built a space that was without a kitchen. We just wanted to do beer tap room with, you know, huge beer garden, fire pits up front, place a ton of people can come and enjoy, and be operated by 2 to 5 bartenders at the most on a busy night. So that's kind of what we have now. You know, the contractor stuff's pretty minuscule, but that almost crippled us. But the more so, picking a credible equipment supplier that's you've got the references and referrals, and you've used the equipment is such a huge thing. To put it in a nutshell, our boil kettle couldn't get wort up to a boil. Any hop addition would scorch the wort, and I kneel and praise Dave as often as I can, because we had beer on tap that was made exclusively in the mash tun.
Can I just say I'm so glad you're sharing this with us. You know,
That's like so Dave here after, and I'm gonna fluff this up, and then I'm gonna pass the baton to Dave. But our equipment was supposed to be in April. It got here mid-July. The building's done. We're paying on the mortgage. We're burning through cash. We had to sell more equity than we wanted to. We get the equipment. It is like we didn't even get drawings. Like we kept asking for drawings. They're in Canton, Ohio. We had to drive over there and be like, "Where the fuck is our equipment, dude?" Like we were plotting ways on how to like physically hurt this person, because they were killing our business and essentially killing us. Like
our dreams.
Yeah. So we were.
that's the most important.
Yeah. So I was 25 at the time. Dave was what? 23 at the time. And we were just like beside ourselves. We work with their engineer to get the equipment here, and it gets here. We hook it up. First batch of beer, it's going. Transfer from the mash tun into the boil kettle. Go ahead.
No, question. You disclose your age and the experience so far, and it just occurred to me you did not have any previous professional brewing experience
Correct.
before you brewed this.
Correct.
Before you brewed this.
Before we made this. Yeah.
Before you put this together. I got myself. We humans, myself included, very judgment, and this it's gonna come out as a compliment. Just so you know.
Do it. Send it, man.
I had your beer, and I found upon. I think time and repetition is the mother of all skills.
And even I had to make a lot of mistakes. There's one thing we're going to talk about in this podcast. Fuck it. This podcast is going to be a little longer just because it's going really well. It's a little hard to believe that this is your first project, and my head is off.
Thank
Seriously.
you. No,
this is good. It's impressive. The beer is very good, and
thank you.
And this is a very ambitious project. You think my bixi project, our project is ambitious? This is keep going.
Thank you. No, I totally get where you're coming from because, a town selling a property. You want another beer?
No. Yes, that and time in. That's the thing. Time in, but it seems like you guys put it together just based off of your previous experiences.
No, honestly, what it was, getting back to like Dave, Justin, myself, is all three of us are completely different. We have a completely different way of thinking, and it all complements one another.
That it doesn't work like that, though. In most
it does not.
Cases,
No.
So
And like getting sidetracked, it's a power of three. So if it was just Dave or I, it wouldn't have worked because it's a power. It's right and wrong. So essentially, the three of us, we lived together behind the brewery while it was being built. So we all moved. So we signed the loan in November of 15.
You're not married, are you?
We're not. I'm married.
You're married.
I'm married.
You were not married back when? You guys were living together?
I was not married yet. I was dating and then got engaged while we were building this out.
Okay.
But the three of us, we've known each other for less than a year. We walked this property, signed the loan in November of 15. We all move in together in a house right behind the brewery in November of 15. I get engaged of January of 16. I lived with my wife upstairs for the first year of marriage. These guys lived in the house too. We didn't have any income for the first year and a half other than bartending tips. But anyway, in the 4 years I've known both Justin, Dave, and myself, there's never been a time of yelling matches, pissed off at each other. It's always been resolved the day of. So it's not like petty, like, fuck Dave, he's wrong, I'm right. It's always been the power of three in the sense of, all right, if Dave has a viewpoint, I have a viewpoint, what does Justin think? Justin's going to pick a side, but you don't want to be the odd man out being like, well, I'm an ass, it's like how, like we had a conversation, it's like, what do we want to do with this beer? Well, I want to move that. Or Chris, what are we going to do about that brand? So getting sidetracked, it's the pot. Like, honestly, we couldn't do it, the two of us. It's like having Justin and vice versa. Like, we all understand it's all even equity. It's three people, this and that. But yeah, so
That's great.
equipment, like you're saying, ambitious thing. I would, if I was a bank, I would not give money to do this. No experience.
Make sure that the bank doesn't hear this.
Oh, the bank. They're going to be here any minute drinking a beer. They might be at the bar, actually, right now. But
all right, Dave, we're going to take a little beer break here,
Yeah.
and then when we come back, Dave is going to come in with some brewing nightmares.
Yeah.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
No.
Yeah.
Great. No, I'm good. I'm just... All right, we're back here after grabbing some refreshments. Alcoholic.
Adult beverages.
Adult
I'm going to watch the laptop so I don't spill all over it.
Okay. Well, segueing into the brewery nightmares that I'd like to talk about. This is a cautionary tale. It's an alert. We know that breweries can be fatal. We had a lot of casualties across the world. But this is more about learning from your mistakes, and it's supposed to be positive. I know that a lot of people don't like to talk about their own failures, but I feel like
You got to grow from it.
yes,
Yeah.
my personal learning, the thing that I learned from it the most was failure. Things that either I did wrong, or equipment failures, or other people that wrong to you that impacted your life. So we're here to talk about Watermark's struggle with the beginning.
Absolutely.
You know, so Dave.
Yeah, I want to expound upon that. Honestly, one of my favorite quotes from my dear old dad was, "We only learn truly from adversity."
Absolutely.
And so that, when you came in saying that, Amr, it was beautiful. So I'll continue on. Anyway, Systech Stainless sent us this equipment, this brew house.
But they're not in business.
They are
Gone.
no longer in business. No, and I think
Probably
that,
for the better.
well, I agree. Yeah, partly due to Chris's nefarious tactics of calling and texting, and we all ganged up upon this man. So he kind of gave us enough to
He clammed up.
give us away from whatever. But anyways, so we received the equipment. We got it finally all hooked up, and the very first brew. The mash tun thankfully laundered decently well. We still have it. Terrible piece of equipment. A little bit ugly, but
You get a
transferred
decent
over
product
there.
as well.
Yeah, it's not terrible. Not terrible. But we laundered, and then I fire up the kettle. And, we're going, we're having some toasts. Hooray, guys, we made it into the kettle. Our first ever batch of beer as a commercial brewery. And then
Direct
Justin
fire,
points
direct
out,
fire.
He says, do you smell something burning? And I say, yeah, it kind of smells like plastic is burning. And we go over and we're kind of looking around. And he points out, he's like, hey, on our beautiful, pristine
Acid etch
polyurethane
floor.
that we all did. Why does that look brown? And I kind of bend over and look underneath the kettle, and there was no insulation between the firebox and the floor. So you can actually still see there's a 5-foot in diameter circle of scorched polyurethane where it had gotten so hot underneath this kettle, it actually cracked the concrete. You can see it is cracked in 3 directions.
Direct fire.
Absolutely wild. Yeah, direct fire kettle. And then subsequently, when we're smelling the wort, we get like an odor of roasting pencil shavings. And I say, that doesn't smell good. And so I open up the troop drain, and this log of charcoal emerges. And we taste a bit of the wort, and it tastes like a burning tire. The smell. I've never tasted a burning tire.
It tastes like you drink a beer that had a cigarette put in it. Like, oh, that's my beer. Cigarette, just water.
I hope you're assuming that the beer tastes like the word tastes like that.
I've actually had a beer which someone ashed it. It was in a can, and someone
And you
ashed
didn't
in
know,
my
and
can.
you took a swig of
It
it.
was really bad.
So,
I would not recommend. Anyway.
Wow.
so we had marketed this business, this brewery, taken this loan, taken on this debt, and we are
And that's
towing the
first
line
batch.
of the system was delivered 3 months late, and this is where we're at. And we said open in spring. If you're opening a brewery, never say when you're going to be open,
And
because
you guys are here. So,
no, never state the date you're going to be open. Never call your moonshot.
we can
Always,
high-five over
yeah.
there, too.
So it's like,
There you go.
It's a wise word.
yeah,
Yeah.
do not label a date.
Never.
Just say
Not only breweries or any business. Any
Coming
business.
soon.
Coming soon.
That's where you live.
Yeah.
so. After 6 batches,
Yeah, so yeah, we had brewed, and I literally put my head to the grindstone, and I insulated the underneath of the kettle with some fire bricks, how you would when you build a grill. Out
You
of
had to
brick
make
and
it work.
mortar. Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
You had
Oh,
to make it
absolutely.
work.
There was no alternative. It was sink or swim. So I mean, I had hooked up, pumps and tried to recirculate to get that tube moving so it wouldn't have an opportunity to scorch. And we had actually done a very short boil. And
Very
here are
clever solution.
a litany of
or attempt for a solution. Very clever.
And honestly, nothing worked. I think we dumped the first 6 batches. It might have been 6 to 8 batches of beer down the drain. All of the same affliction. Scorched, burning, awful, charcoal.
it was very disheartening.
Oh yeah, yeah. By the way, I'm the first one to break the ice. At ArcLight, they broke the ice first when it comes to like the brewery nightmares. I'm the one that has to kind of instigate the stories. I didn't need it here, and I didn't need it at ArcLight either.
This is our lifeblood. Like, this is our motivation.
At least, like, this is a tradition on the show that I'm trying to create.
Oh, that's cool.
I will share a story that happened to me again with the Chinese manufactured water ton. I was brewing. I was responsible for the first batch of right? First, second, third, until the 19th batch. I was brewing a beer, and I was lautering. There's differential pressure.
Right.
You know, where you're pulling. About 60% into lautering, into run off, I hear this, and I'm like, I look around, and as a brewer, you rely on your smell, on your you hear for things first.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Doing a podcast.
and then I have a pretty good idea of what that was. Well, finished lautering and it was hard to lauter after that happened. After that happened, it was hard to lauter. What happened was the false bottom was concave. It was sucked in. The false bottom was not built correctly. It was very thin. It was bent, and we had to basically redo the false bottom in a water ton. It was one of the most atrocious things I've ever seen in my career. And then I brought in a welder, a local welder. Shout out for Jason Monk from Eliminated Brew Works. He helped me rebuild the bottom of the false bottom of the lauter ton.
Your current system right now?
Oh no, that was.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, that's no.
Back
not
in the
my
day.
current.
Yeah, your current system's beautiful.
Back a couple of breweries ago.
Yeah.
It was scary, and I do have some footage of that. Maybe I'll share it. Maybe I won't.
It's probably a fun grain out.
It was just. I had nothing to do with the purchase of the equipment. I was just there as started off as a consultant, and ended up being an active brewer. And don't buy shit things.
Yeah.
You know, that's a take.
You get what you pay for. I mean,
Yes.
that's where we're at.
Well,
Systech, no
you
name.
said it.
Yes.
I do your research.
We're going through the same thing with our keg washer right now. We did a noble keg washer out of Pennsylvania. The thing was $9,000, lasted maybe 8 months. Then we went through a supplier here within our state. We're getting ready to return that after the first of the year. It's leaking caustic. I mean, when you're building pressure and spraying caustic, that's a dangerous environment.
Absolutely.
And
so
so-
did my drug side, people.
Exactly.
So did my drug side.
So
Fuck with that.
So, not to name it, it just is what it is. So, but like, you get for what you pay for. If you try to cut corners and you don't have good referrals, you get, I don't know, it's frustrating, but hey, it's all good.
This has been so far. This has been a tale of. It's clear. I'm drinking the product.
You can't do a brewery on a budget. You can't do it on a budget. It's always going to cost more. Like being an entrepreneur, having projects, it's going to cost more if you're going to build a building or start a business. Doing a brewery, there's so many loose ends and nooks and crannies and little bullshit you can't budget for.
Segueing into that, not even as a brewer, and I'm aware of the little bolts and nuts and things. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You always gonna have more expenses. Absolutely.
So it's the uncontrollables. But getting back to Systech, that boil kettle scorched wort.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. Dave was brewing. He woke up at 6 a.m. Still building out the space. Scorches the wort, dumps it. Dave goes, "I'm going to sleep. I'm gonna wake up and eat lunch, and I'm gonna figure this shit out."
You say that? That's great.
He did, no, verbatim.
That's great.
Well, I'm paraphrasing in my mind because I operate. Dave's more of the silent assassin. I'm more of the bullshitter. Dave wakes up, eats lunch, gets on the interwebs, comes back and goes, "We're gonna make all our beer in our mash tun, and I'm gonna use the plate chiller in reverse to heat up some of the wort in the boil kettle, and then sparge back on top."
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I took inspiration. I mean, I'd like to give you some grandiose story about how I remembered Louis Pasteur from way back. But anyways, I'd come across a theoretical paper on no boil beers. I remember
No boil beers.
Right, on ASBC, and it was kind of like a novelty article.
Name of the year?
It was an older one.
Okay.
It was much older. I could probably pull it up later on.
Medieval times.
Medieval
Anyway,
time. If you pull it up, I can put it right here.
They were basically trying to document evidence, some kind of pros towards not boiling, just due to the all of our history in brewing and everything. I mean, you have to isomerize your alpha acids and all that, but I mean, they were doing their due diligence. Anyway, it sparked this thought in my head, and I was like, I have 2 heat exchangers. Why don't I boil water in the kettle, which would scorch my wort otherwise? I mean, it's not going to affect the water. And I ran the water against my wort in the exchanger and raised the mash temperature up to 72 degrees and held for 30 minutes, and then I'd add hops at that time. And at that point, I mean, we could get a beer that was not ideal, but it was passable.
How was it?
I would note specifically that IPAs and anything...
No, how was that beer specifically? How did it taste?
There was no alpha acid, first of all.
So when we opened, we had customers that are used to Michigan, IPAs that are caramel malt, Centennial hops. Hey, why are you guys making bitter beers? We then were making New England IPAs. Were getting super hot at the time.
So I mean, if we're
Everything was 20 IBUs.
It was, technically speaking, no IBU. But anyway, to answer your question, the flaws are different than you would expect. I mean, we didn't have any sulfur problem, no DMS, no diacetyl, but that's more of a fermentation aspect. The haze was unspeakable. I mean, you're not going to have that hot break, so that makes sense. Or the cold break, for instance, just because the two depend upon one another. But other than that, and the beer being somewhat flabby for absence of the alpha acid, certain styles did really well. And I mean, the wheat beers, the Hefeweizen, Saisons,
sour
wit beer, sour beer, I would say it almost benefited sour in the fact that we were fermenting with Brettanomyces and they seemed to enjoy the extra protein content.
Yep.
I didn't have any problem with fusel production of excess free amino nitrogen. We had a drinkable product. I won't say it was the highest quality. It was definitely passable at best. Not proud of it, but we are grateful to the locals of Stevensville for at least getting us those first couple months when we were able to purchase our new boil kettle. Correctly boil the beer following those couple trial months.
So in a world of we're at a point in craft beer where if you're not making 2-style, well thought out, executed recipes, you're dead. We limped through the first 6 months of hefts, hazy IPAs, sours, those types of beers. Couldn't do a bittering IPA, couldn't do a lager, those types of beers. And our first 20 grand we put into a new boil kettle that had a retrofit into our current system. And it was, we pulled our hair out, but that was the valley of hell. And we will never forget it. Like, not to say we're on the peak right now, but we went through so much bullshit trying to get open that now being open and having whatever equipment or whatever necessary item we need on the production side, it just makes it that much better. Like, it was the worst experience.
That is very, very neat.
So,
congratulations, you guys.
Yeah, man. It's hey, and I always choose to Dave anytime, man, because we were down creek without a paddle.
Yeah, and this tastes good. I'll.
It's not acceptable to do what we did, but somehow it worked.
Absolutely not. No, that's what I'm saying.
Because
that's what I'm thinking. Actually,
you need to be. Everyone needs to be a purist in the sense of what's your goal with this beer? Because when you pay $5 a pint, $6, $7 a snifter, sometimes $8 or $9, you're investing in something that needs to be well executed. You know, there are breweries in Michigan that, oh, this beer is sour, this beer is diacetyl. Like, no, we're done with that. Everyone needs to be done with that.
On here, like, people throw in the word diacetyl without knowing what it tastes, what it is.
It's a buzzword.
It's a buzzword. Thank you. Yeah.
So
it's a ketone.
You know, I like to say I love pumping butter into my, you know what I mean, like movie theater popcorn butter.
It doesn't work like that.
So, but no, so Dave on the production end, like, so it went from Dave, Justin, and I starting out home brewing. We get to this point of, oh shit, our equipment doesn't work, to breach the gap. Let's get the proper equipment, to now, when people ask you as a brewery owner or someone who's involved in a brewery, what's your shtick, or what are you known for?
What do you do? Yeah.
So we broke it down in our business plan. So during that time of getting open, is we built a 53-page business plan at a Starbucks every night. So we were either brewing or building the business plan, and we wanted to have a really good experience, really good beer, and a really good brand. And I'm in charge of the brand, Dave's in charge of the beer, and Justin's in charge of the experience. Because we're not distributing. We do 97% of all of our sales are out of those taps and through that one register.
That's great.
So that's kind of so that's the long term. The short term is drinkable beers that are unique that you can crush during the summer or during the winter. So
cheers.
Yeah.
Glad I came out here.
Hey man.
It's been
so that's like, we're open, we're through the shit equipment, and now we're kind of moving and grooving. We love I love sour beers. I know Dave's passion projects are always when we can mix some bugs together, and you know, we got a ton of local fruit that we use. Yeah.
Controlled sour.
Absolutely. Intentional sour.
Intentional.
Yeah.
We're gonna high five again.
The correct acids.
Yeah.
Yes, the correct acid, not butyric.
I don't want acetic.
Butyric, well, some people may.
Apple cider vinegar is really popular right now.
The one acid you definitely do butyric.
Yeah, we had a sample of a.
Yeah.
In our 12 ounce. We had come across a couple, and.
Yeah, please don't. All right, guys, it's time for the wrap up. I really want to thank my time here. Thank you guys for having me over.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was an excellent. Again, we've come to fate, but we met you, out of a turn of fate, I guess.
I guess so. Yeah.
Anyways, we're glad to get here now.
Dim sound, man. That's the main reason. And then it's like, oh, it's a brewery.
One of the bartenders is like, hey, Mark, they have a brewery in Michigan. Go talk to them. And that's how usually I go.
Oh yeah.
So I came close and like, awesome.
And I hope this isn't a downer podcast of like, man, that's such a downer. And hopefully everybody's not like, these guys are a bunch of inexperienced scrubs. No. So we love the community we're in, and like this little Southwest Michigan pocket, 90 minutes from Chicago. I love the beers that we have, whether it's super crushable lager, super crisp pale ale. Our sours are pretty phenomenal with the local fruit.
Obligatory self-plug. Had to do it.
But yeah, that's kind of our plug on our space. So
awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
And thank you, Dave.
Yeah, man. Cheers.
Yeah.